Hey guys, Tomboy601, and today we have the Tier 5 British Heavy Cruiser, the London, to look at. Good old full review, the stats, the history, and a wonderful game where we go really hard and just miss out on a Kraken. All of that is what we have in store today. Before we get into the review, let's go ahead and take a look at the comment of the day. Today's comment of the day is from Tobias Schultz. He says, great video on our old off-meta. Is Burke better than Halsey for the Benham? That's right, there is a ton of old videos I have. If you enjoy this content, maybe go back to the backlog, see what's in there. Off-meta was kind of a series I was toying around with using the off-meta commanders with certain ships to see, is there a reason that we're not using them? Maybe there is a better way to play certain ships that we're just not thinking about. This is an example of one of them. If you want your comment to be comment of the day, leave a good comment down below on this video or any of the old videos, and we will highlight one of them before the next video. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and talk about the stats of the London. As always, some of these stats may differ from your ship back at home, and that's because, of course, we do have our commander. So let's go ahead and talk about my preference on commanders first. I really like John Jellicoe for this one. I know it's weird. Usually you'd run Fraser on British cruisers, but Jellicoe has his wonderful base trait of being able to boost repair party, and you're going to need that in the ship. I use Inspirations Madden Swirsky, and then I use Burn It Down, Look at Me Now, On Second Thought, Smoke on the Water, and Fully Packed to get the most out of all of the consumables. Similarly, Bruce Fraser is my alternate build. I just like Bruce for the standard cruisers, and I don't want to be flipping his skills back and forth whenever I want to flip between the British cruisers that have HE, like the London and the Belfast, with the tech tree ships of like the Fiji and the Leander, the ones that don't have HE. This way it keeps both of my commanders kind of separate and just makes it easier for me to manage. I think Fraser could do a very nice build. If I was going to just have Fraser for the London, I'd have Burn It Down, Igniter, just trying to get as much out of the HE as possible, Punch Through, Fixated, and then Fully Packed once again. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive on into the London stats. First thing we're going to talk about is her consumables. She has a full complement of them. Every single consumable slot is filled. First off, she has the basic repair party, 5-second duration, and a reload time of 57 seconds. Nothing too special there, but then comes her three big ones. Repair party, which you will be using a lot of because of her armor. Repair party, she repairs 553 HP per second with a duration of 21.2 seconds, and it takes 114 seconds to reload, and with fully packed, we get 3 of those charges. Sonar, she has a torpedo detection range of 2.5 kilometers and a ship detection range of 3.5 kilometers. The duration on that is going to be 180 seconds with a reload time of 114 seconds. And once again, fully packed, coming in with 4 charges for that sonar to be used, so you have plenty of charges to use and plenty of time to use them. Finally and lastly, the smoke is there. She is a British cruiser and she's going to have that good old smoke. Duration 15.6 seconds, then it will last 103 seconds. The reload time, kind of long, 228 seconds, but you do get 4 charges. Of course, the other beneficiary of having fully packed is that you are able to get close to another ship and then reduce those reload times on all of those. And that's one of the other reasons I really liked using fully packed on those commanders, because you can get those items back up and running significantly quicker than if you did not. Now, let's go ahead and talk about her other stats. Hit points, she has 34,600, which is kind of near the top of the range for cruisers at the tier, but you would expect it because she's a heavy cruiser and you are going to need every single one of those hit points. Armor, let's go ahead and take a look at her armor in the armor view. And as we can see, she doesn't have a lot, but she does have a somewhat interesting armor layout. Now, what we do see is basically she stands really tall out of the water, and it is very thin armor throughout. So what does that mean is, as we look, there isn't much for shells to hit if they don't hit the center of her, which means you're going to get a ton of overpens, and HE is going to be the enemy for the London. So if we take a look, basically nothing down the center. They might, if they hit outside of the Citadel, they might hit the turrets, and they might do some damage internally on those turrets. But that's it. Beyond that, big old Citadel in the middle, just out of the water, kind of matching up with that armor belt, with the torpedo belt that you can see there. It kind of sticks out just a little on the side there, and that's where her Citadel is. So that's where you kind of want to aim if you're looking at killing a London, or that's where you want to avoid being hit if you are in the London. So yeah, that's her armor. Very thin, kind of surprisingly thin, and that kind of plays into her playstyle overall. So to finish talking out about her armor, she does have a 4% torpedo reduction, and that's all there is to know on her armor. Let's go ahead and move on to the main battery. She has 203mm guns, 203 being what is the heavy cruisers. That's what you see on the Pensacola, what you see on the Aoba. Firing range of 14.5 kilometers and a reload time of 14.7. One of the worst reload times, only being beaten out by the Graf Spree as far as reload times go, which is very, very rough. This means she's only pumping out 32.7 shells per minute, and it's going to take her guns 21.7 seconds to do a full 180. HE, she does fairly decently, 2,850 per shell, meaning she does about 92,910 damage per minute, and those shells are going to have a 17% chance of setting fire. So a fairly high fire chance, only being beaten out by the Graf Spree once again, because the Graf Spree is just such a weird ship. And it's pretty much tied at best at the tier with the Aoba. So she is going to be setting a decent amount of fires. On the other end, her AP, 4,550 which means she's going to be doing 148,785 damage per minute with her AP, second worst at the tier for her AP. Secondaries, she has 4x2 102mm guns with a secondary range of 4.2 seconds and a reload time of 3 seconds. One of the faster firing secondaries for these ships. Secondary damage is going to be 1,500 with an 8% chance of fire. Once again, doing fairly well with her fire setting chance. One of the higher end abilities to set fire. She also has two 4x533mm torpedo launchers with a reload time of 106 seconds and a damage of 15,733. These aren't the best torpedoes, with only a range of 7 kilometers and a top speed of 59 knots, but they can be used for defensive measures, and that's pretty much what I think you'll end up using them for, is for that defense. Max speed 33 knots, just in the middle of the tier as far as her ability to get up to speed. Turning radius is 710 meters with a rudder shift speed of 6.3. Now, how we have our ship set up means this next stat is going to be a little bit wonky and probably not going to be true unless you follow my build exactly, but I do have her with the best concealment at the tier at 9.8 meters, just because of how juicy of a target she is and her need to be behind cover or in her smoke. I want the best chance to stay hidden. So 9.8 kilometers on detectability by sea, 6.7 by air, and the one that is going to catch you out every single time, detectability in smoke when firing, 6.1 kilometers, which is so large, and is going to repeatedly catch you out, especially if you are used to playing these ships as if they were the regular British cruisers in their smoke. So those are the stats. Let's go ahead now and talk about the history of the London. Now, the London is actually the 12th, this version, I should say, of the London is the 12th ship of the same name for the Royal Navy. That's right, 11 of them came before her. That's kind of crazy. Anyways, HMS London was a member of the second group of County-class heavy cruisers for the Royal Navy. The County-class was a class of heavy cruisers built for the Royal Navy in between the years of the First and Second War. They were the first post-war cruisers that were constructed for the Royal Navy and were designed within the limits of the Washington Naval Treaty. Such ships have a limit of 10,000 ton standard displacement and 8-inch caliber main guns, and you may also hear them referred to as treaty cruisers. Now, the London was laid down in Portsmouth Dockyard on the 23rd of February 1926, launched on the 14th of September 1927, and finally commissioned on January 31st, 1929. London served with the 1st Cruiser Squadron until March 1939. During that time, London and her sister ship, Shropshire, facilitated the evacuations of thousands of civilians from Barcelona during the Spanish Civil War. Then, around March 1939, she went under reconstruction at Chatham Dockyard and was much altered in appearance, and this is the kind of one that we get today. Replacement of her machinery was considered, but later it was abandoned. She was given a new superstructure above the main deck, and in many ways this resembled the Fiji class of light cruisers, and we can definitely see that in her superstructure in the game. Her single 4-inch gun mounts were changed to twin mounts, and several 20mm AA guns and radar were added. Sadly, we don't get radar in the game. In addition, she was fitted with a 3.5-inch cemented armor belt, 8 feet deep down from the main armor deck, which covered the machinery spaces. The reconstruction work was finally completed in March 1941, and this refit was planned to be implemented across all of the County-class ships, but because of wartime pressures and resources, no other ships in her class got this reconstruction. Upon completion in 1941, she was deployed to the Atlantic to hunt for the Bismarck, and in the subsequent mopping up operations with the destroyer Brilliant, she intercepted the supply tanker Esso Hamburg and Esso Cologne on the 4th of June. During the time of the deployment, it became apparent that the extra weight added from reconstruction had greatly overstrained the hull, and the Atlantic operations caused much damage to the hull. Many cracks appeared in her upper deck and the hull due to the weight of that new superstructure, causing stresses, and as a result, she had to be actually docked again between October 1941 and January 1942. After that, she was sent to the rough waters of the Arctic, where she operated on Russian convoy cover until November. This duty exposed more problems, and the ship had to be docked yet again in December of 1942 and May 1943 for repairs. On her return to service, she was sent out to the Eastern Fleet, with whom she operated until the end of the war. Following the Second World War and being the Royal Navy's only modernized 8-inch gun cruiser, London was refitted for further service in early 1946 to allow her to serve in the post-war fleet. Following the refit, she sailed for the Far East in 1946 and served there for the next 3 years on the China Station. In spring of 1949, the frigate Amethyst became trapped by an advancing communist Chinese forces up the Yangtze, and London sailed up the river as a show of strength in an attempt to help free the frigate. The communist forces were not intimidated, though, and took the cruiser under fire. London returned fire with her 8 and 4-inch guns, firing several hundred rounds, but was hit several times. Her 2 forward-facing 8-inch guns and 10 turret aft were damaged and rendered inoperable, and her bridge sustained several hits. London retreated down the river and returned to Hong Kong for repairs, which lasted until the end of July. London remained in Chinese waters until August of 1949, when she was relieved by HMS Kenya and returned to the UK in autumn of 1949. London was surveyed to determine if the extensive repair and refit for the further service was feasible, but the condition of her machinery, some of it dating back to all the way to 1928, which didn't get replaced during that initial reconstruction, as well as the large crew required to operate her, made her a too expensive a proposition to keep around. So, given Britain's post-war financial difficulties, she was retired to reserve in River Fall until she was sold for scrapping in 1950. And that is the history of the London. Not a fully storied history, but definitely an interesting one. One that shows that maybe you shouldn't just be modifying things to make them better all the time. And yeah, turns out adding that heavy superstructure wasn't the best thing for her. So yeah, let's go ahead now and take a look at a really fun game in the London. So here we are on the map straight. We did fast forward time just a little because we didn't need to see ourselves sailing over to our position on our side. Normandy pops up and we are going to just start trying to pelt her with whatever HE we can. London having surprisingly good HE, mainly doing in the chance to set fire. So that's going to be our goal for this Normandy. As far as positioning goes, London's a heavy cruiser with a long reload time, so that means she is going to want to play the back line and try to find cover if we can. At this point, we are going to try to find cover behind those islands, but we were still being spotted, so we're going to go ahead and create our own cover, because that's what is the beauty of the London is, and mainly all the other British ships, is being able to create cover and create crossfires where you normally wouldn't be able to because you have that smoke. So knowing that, we deployed that smoke and we are starting to pelt away on that Normandy. Got 10,000 damage already. One fire started, but he already put it out. But don't worry, we will be able to set many, many more. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is her armor and her overall design. As we can see, London sits very, very tall out of the water, which makes her a very easy target when she is exposed. And it also means because of how thin that armor is, HE is just not going to be her friend. Pretty much any HE from any sort of target is kind of vulnerable to us. Also, we do have our teammates who happen to be our division mates also sailing up front. Can't always control what your teammates do. It's not going to be pretty for them. Our friendly Pensacola going full broadside, and I just have a feeling he's going to end up being punished for that. Normandy, we've set, I think 3 fires on her now, and she's down a fairly significant amount. She took a broadside from another ship. Fubuki pops up. Maybe we can shoot him just to try to hit that destroyer when we can see it, but unfortunately, there he goes, pops up again, and we're going to go ahead and just tap him with a salvo, saying, hey, we see ya, and we set a fire on him. Unfortunately, torpedoes take out that Pensacola, leaving only 2 left on our side over here, and that's going to be a problem for us later on in the game. Fubuki pops up again. Smoke has dissipated, so it's time for us to try to start to find some cover from the islands. Now, we do have really good concealment, but it's not going to be taking effect here because we have that straight line of sight on the Fubuki, and we're just going to start taking away at the Fubuki. HE does really good damage, and we don't have the fastest reload time, but this Fubuki is very much kind of being out in the middle of nowhere, starting to do a charge on us, so we're going to go ahead and punish him for it. At this point, he looks like he may be getting a little bit close, so we're going to go ahead and fire those torps. Mainly just, I don't know if we're going to hit him, but as a way to kind of form a wall saying, hey, if you want to push into this, you're going to have to sail straight and right into our ship, or take these torpedoes, which will kill you, or it pushes him away. Either way, it's zoning off that area and making it so that either A, he dies, or B, he doesn't go there, and that's what we want to see. And at this point, our destroyer also got destroyed, so it is our time to go ahead and turn and burn, because we are now the only ship here. We don't have a ton of armor. We can't bow tank anything. Everything goes through us, and this is okay, because with the London, we have a very, very large repair party, and we can go ahead and heal ourselves up. We can go ahead and take the damage, and as long as it doesn't really hit the Citadel, we can go ahead and do a surprisingly amount of heal. Also, some decent AA right there, letting us get hidden once again. Fubuki pops up, and he is low, so we're going to go ahead and take the shot. Yes, it's spotting us, but if we can eliminate the Fubuki, that's going to be one less headache for us. Anyways, back to repair parties and the importance of the repair parties for us. We have Jellicoe. We know we're going to take a hit. Like, look at all those nasty hits. Nothing bounced there. All of those just went into the superstructure, into the deck, into the turrets, and did fairly significant damage. And the Nuremberg has a really fast reload time, so he can really, really punish us. So we want to get away. We're going to go ahead and switch on over to AP because he's going to be somewhat broadside once he comes around that island, and maybe we can go ahead and punish him for that because we do still have decent AP. It's just knowing the right time to use it, and right now is going to be that right time to use it. And boom, look at that. 3 Citadel hits. Königsberg almost just eliminated there. Now we just need a couple more, but look at that damage we're taking. It's not big hits, but it's a lot of hits because nothing is going to bounce from the London. You are going to absorb every bit of damage, and look how much we're able to repair back up with that repair party. And that's the key. You know, the repair party is how you survive in the London. It's you take a good chunk of damage and then you retreat to repair it and you come back in. Right now, Fubuki we know is low. Their cruiser is now destroyed. If they have the Normandy still, he isn't going to have a lot of health. He was very low to begin with. And now if we look on the map, we will now have two different battleships supporting us for this push. So it's now our time. We fell back. We took out the aggressors on their team, and now it's our time to push on in. Fubuki right there. We went ahead and popped the sonar because it's a Fubuki. You know if Fubuki's around, you know you're going to have some torpedoes in the water. Might as well pop it. We have plenty of charges of sonar to go around, and it is now time to go hunting for that Fubuki. And this is one of the other kind of fun things you can do with the London. Big hit there, by the way, as well. 4,000 from a shell. Is I kind of think of the London as like a rattlesnake, and the destroyers like gopher tortoises and their smoke. If you don't know, gopher tortoises, or at least here in Florida, they dig holes, and then once they move out, other creatures like snakes like to move on in, and that's what we're going to do right here. That wonderful Fubuki made a little burrow for us in that smoke. We love the smoke, and we have the sonar to push in, eliminate whatever is in that smoke, in that burrow, and then take over that smoke. And then once that smoke starts to dissipate, we have the smoke to maintain that cover. So it is now our time to go ahead and push on in and see what else we can do. Now, in this case, we do have that Fuso, so I don't think we're going to push in too close because he could just punch right through us. We're going to go ahead and use the smoke to move off to the side and set up a alternative firing angle because we know there's going to be at least, what, 2 enemy battleships over there? There's something to be said for trying to find a different angle. We have these 2 battleships supporting behind us. They're probably going to take the brunt of the force. And if we can go ahead and set ourselves up behind an island without being spotted, we are of course spotted as I say that, but if we can go ahead and set up behind an island and start pumping in HE or AP into the Fuso, that is going to benefit us greatly. And that's just what we're going to do. Shells, of course, are being fired at the battleship. I think he was full broadside and he was the juicier target to that Fuso. So we're now going to go ahead and find a little hole to set up in, and there we go. Just kind of stop right on over here and start pumping lead into the Fuso, and it will be just a matter of time before he is gone. Hopefully set some fires on him. Don't want to try the full AP right now just because of the angles. I don't think, while we do have good AP, and if I was using Fraser as opposed to Jellicoe, I may have some better luck on the Fuso. I think right now the more important thing is going to be setting those fires on the Fuso, because once again, we have a 17% chance to set fire, which is tied for the Aoba. And yes, we don't have the fire rate of the Aoba, you know, we're a little bit slower, but we can still be just as annoying. And I know they reduced fire chances, but they're still proccing fairly well. I mean, look, at this game, we've gotten 7 already. We're at 71,000 damage, and we've only killed 2 ships, and we have 2 of them going right now on the Fuso. We have done fire chances while being nerfed, haven't been nerfed completely, and they are still an effective tactic. Fuso goes down, we're at 7,500, and it's time to go hunting. And those shells right there, I completely forgot that there was going to be a battleship on the other side, and now I'm slightly panicking. It's going to be now trying to find cover and trying to figure out what is over there, because as far as those shells go, it could be a battleship, it could be a cruiser. Probably not a destroyer. It looked too flat to be a destroyer, but there's a lot of shells there, and that now has me worried. Is it the Normandy? I probably should have checked the scoreboard at this point, but live and learn. And oh my goodness, it's a New Mexico with nearly full health. Let's go ahead, turn. We're going to give him full broadside here. Prepared to get punished, but it's going to be what we have to do. Torpedoes are in range, but we don't have a firing option on them. Go ahead and switch to AP. We can see what the AP can do. We're going to go ahead and let out that salvo of torpedoes just in case he decides to slow down or turn in, and as a way just to keep him pushing there. And now we're going to go ahead and swing around and use our other torpedoes, because he either is A, going to turn out and then not be so much of a threat to us because we can take shelter behind that island, or if he decides, you know what, I'm just going to keep sailing straight, we can go ahead, start turning, and fire those torpedoes, because if he didn't turn now, he is locked in and he's not going to turn, right? Like, if he didn't turn back then, he's not going to turn now. Go ahead, let those torpedoes fly, and we're going to pull the octopus and put out our smoke. Now, something you may notice, he is 3.4 kilometers away. We did not check our smoke fire penalty there, because even though we just popped smoke, he is going to be able to see us plenty easy, and we're going to start to get punished. We did just activate that repair party, get back another like third of our health. You know, repair party saving our butts once again. Torpedoes, we're holding the fire just to see if torpedoes are going to hit and kill him. They didn't, but our AP shells do good job there. Good damage, but we can see we're still spotted, which means there's someone nearby, and there is the Acasta. Go ahead, switch on over to HE, because we need to get rid of the Acasta. Also, Pensacola, he has access to our full broadside, and he's going to start punishing us for that. So go ahead, get one salvo into the Acasta, shot down the plane. We take a nasty hit from the Pensacola. Acasta holding on to his torpedoes to the last second and fires them. We are able to juke him. Luckily, Pensacola full health. Our only chance is going to be just go ahead and fire and hope and pray that we can survive. We get one salvo of HE, and we're switching to AP because he's broadside, but that isn't going to be enough for us. End the game, 120,000 damage, and we kind of saved our team. We definitely held out this side and made it so that we would end up going on to win. Of course, those two battleships are going to be able to end up mopping up that Pensacola, luckily for us. And that's going to be the end of the review for the London, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Do you like the London? Do you like the London? Are you going to end up picking her up? I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.